Welcome to another episode of The Deep Freeze. I am your host, as always, Tanner Friesen. Listen, we're back. We're back, man. I am here for another episode 10, right? We're double digits now. Granted, it only took us 4 years, but we're double digis. Double digis. I read a stat the other day. I can't remember where it was. I read a stat the other day saying how there's the first of the podcast. Ding, 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 ding. Something like 65 or 75% of podcasts never hit 10 episodes. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're not the statistic. Hey, they had us in the first half. I'm not going to lie. I had us in the first half. I'm not going to lie. But we are now double digits, effective immediately. And I'm super stoked about it. I'm stoked to be back here for another episode. Listen, before we get going, I do have to say I got a little bit of housekeeping to do. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone that tuned into the last episode. Glad. I think I got some really good feedback on it. I do want to apologize. The audio was super quiet. This whole podcasting thing is like riding a bike. It's going to take a minute to get back and make sure everything works and so on and so forth. Make sure the audio equipment's good. Make sure that I remember how to do the audio equipment, how to record and stuff like that. It might take another episode or two, but hopefully this audio is quite a bit better. It should be louder. Hopefully it's quite a bit better. If it's not, please feel free to reach out on Instagram at TheDeepFreeze20 or anywhere else you can really get a hold of me. As for the video side of the podcast, I am working out some kinks on the recording of it. I can get the video. I'm just having a hard time transferring it over into my software to put the podcast audio to the video side of it, so that you guys have great quality audio on both sides of it, whether that be YouTube or Spotify or Apple Music or wherever, Apple Podcasts, I guess, wherever you guys get your podcasts. So for those of you that do want to watch, it is coming. I think what I'm going to do is probably backlog the episodes and then release them at a later date. So the YouTube might be behind a little bit on that. But bear with me as I, again, get things figured out back to what they should be. So, before we get into this week's episode, you guys are going to hear me promo it a bunch over the next few weeks and or month or so. I'm going to talk about the Farming Feud, right? I am super, super excited. I cannot say it enough. Guys, the episodes that we have recorded have been absolutely dynamite. We are also working on a video version for that podcast. So, once again, be a little bit patient with us on how that comes along. We will be releasing our Instagram handle and account. I believe we have it in the next 2 weeks. We will have that fully up and running, ready to go. We have our logo, which I'm super excited to obviously share with you guys on Instagram, as well as starting a TikTok channel once the video gets... Is it a TikTok channel? Do TikTokers call it their channel? Or is that just a YouTube thing? Because it's not a podcast channel. It's a YouTube channel. It's just a podcast. So is it a TikTok page? I guess that would make sense because I think they call it the For You page. I'm not on TikTok, okay? And that last 2-minute ramble right there should show you how much I know about TikTok, which is very little. But we are going to get one so that we can give you guys all of the hard-hitting TikToks that can come out of an agricultural podcast with two guys that like to talk shit. I think I can say shit because I'm after the first 5 minutes of this podcast, so I think I can. We're going to say we can. Not that I'm getting monetized by this anyway. As for house cleaning, okay, that's done. Obviously, you guys, I'm super excited to release the Farming Feud with you guys. It will be coming here. I believe we've set the date as March 1st, which is a Friday. I don't guarantee that that's going to be our release date going forward, but that is kind of the plan, is release on March 1st. And then bi-weekly from there. So be on the lookout. We'll obviously promote it on the Deep Freeze and on my personal channel, personal Instagram, everything else. So be on the lookout for it, and make sure on March 1st, you guys find the link on our social medias. I'll make sure that we post both the Deep Freeze, my personal, and Brad's, and we'll make sure that gets to you guys so that you can tune in on March 1st for the very first episode. It's going to be a banger. It's going to be a good time. We have some big things planned with that podcast, including some traveling episodes, which will be a blast. So earmark that, put that on your calendar. Make sure you check it out when the time comes for that. And obviously be on the lookout for the Instagram page as well. So without further ado, let's get into this episode of the Deep Freeze. Welcome here. Welcome back. Number 10. Double digits. We're not a statistic. And this is the year of consistency. Onwards and upwards. We move forward. That's what we do. We need to think up a good nickname for the listeners. Are they just a bunch of freezers? I don't know. I'll put some thought into it. Let me know in the... find my Instagram. It's the Deep Freeze 20. Send me a DM. Let me know what the nickname for the listeners of this podcast should be called. Should be named. What's a nickname we're gonna give you guys? Right? You're gonna need something. So let's figure it out there. You know what? Best idea. I don't know. We'll find a prize. We'll give a prize to the best idea, the one that we use. How's that sound? Good. Okay. Shit, we're getting things done today. We're getting them done. Listen, we're back in another week. Things have been a little bit crazy around here for myself. You know, currently I'm sitting in a knee brace. Had a bit of an oopsie, a bit of an accident. It's all good. We're surviving. Looks like I have a torn LCL and PCL, which for anyone that doesn't know, that's 2 of the 4 ligaments that hold your knee together. So I guess I only did the job 50%. So I'll have to, get better at that. We strive for 100% around here. But, honestly, the worst part about that whole thing is that it was such a fluke. And I knew I was walking on icy ground. And I was so preoccupied by dealing with something at work, right? I had my phone in my hand. I was walking. I wasn't looking at my phone. I was trying to put my phone back in my pocket, actually. But for anyone that knows me, I have a fast walk. I call it my farmer walk, because when I'm walking, I walk with a purpose. I don't meander around. I don't muck about. I'm walking to get somewhere. Where I'm walking has a purpose. It holds a purpose. So let's get there. I don't want to meander down the trail. Let's just walk, right? So naturally, I walk at a pretty brisk pace, let's say. It's not a jog, but I can move, right? For a fat, out of shape smoker, I can move. I can motor when I need to. Key being need to. I don't often need to, but here nor there, that's how I walk, right? So I was walking, dealing with something, go to put my phone in my pocket, and I stepped on this slick surface. My left foot came and hit my right foot, so essentially I went, my own feet took me out. And then I guess as I was crashing into the ground like a bag of bricks, I tried to catch myself with my left foot or my left leg and buckled my knee underneath myself, and that was kind of that. I didn't hear a pop. I know everyone who says, in a knee injury, you hear a pop. I didn't hear a pop. It all happened so fast, and I came crashing down it was a really graceful fall. No splash, 100%. That was good. But either way, not fun nonetheless. So I'm tucked up in a knee brace for the next 4 to 6 weeks. And we'll see what happens after that. Hopefully we can stay out from the knife. I guess this podcast wouldn't really know yet about my last excursion under the knife, which would have been my shoulder, which maybe I should talk about that. Yeah, maybe I should just save all my injuries for one episode. Just do an injury episode. Break everything down for you guys year by year over what I have hurt consistently. But maybe I won't. Does anyone else feel like that's kind of bragging when you talk about hurting yourself like that? Like, oh, I've done this, I've done that. I broke my toe, I broke my hand, I've broken my wrist, my back, whatever. It kind of feels like bragging. Like, yeah, and I'm so good at breaking things. Like, I don't know why it feels like bragging when I say it, but like somehow it does, and I don't know. As the kids would say, it kind of gives me an ick. Gives me the ick, I think is what they say. I think that's what the kids are saying these days. Gives me the ick. But yeah, that's what's going on around here. So taking her easy, taking her slow. What else have I been getting up to? Oh, I've been doing lots of ice fishing. Maybe not lots. I wish I fished more, but that actually leads me to a really good point on this podcast is I would like to bring in some of the outdoor stuff that I do. Maybe not as much as the flatland stuff was, but definitely more than what was on the channel or on the podcast before. So for those of you that did like the flatlands, field and fowl side of it, you'll still get a little bit of it. Obviously with me doing outdoorsy stuff, I still hunt, still fish, still thoroughly enjoy doing that stuff. Just don't have a podcast based solely around it. Yeah, let's bring it back. I like it. Let's bring it back. So ice fishing. Yeah, I have been out a few times this winter. Actually, I've had the pleasure of taking Brad on his first few ice fishing excursions. I guess I took him on one. We went to a lake that holds no fish. He went out a couple times with my equipment. Sadly, he has yet to ice a fish, so we are hoping to change that in the next couple weeks, which will be an episode on the Farming Feud, if you were wondering. We will for sure record an episode in the tent while we're trying to slay some big Lake Winnipeg greenbacks. And for anyone that doesn't know that, anybody that doesn't live in this, I guess the southern half of the province, Lake Winnipeg is one of the I think it's like the 6th biggest fishery in Canada. Don't quote me on that. I might have to do some house cleaning next episode on that one. But it's something like 23,000 square acres or some. I need a Jamie. I need a Jamie to pull this up. Jamie, pull that up. Yeah. So it's a huge body of water. And something with the makeup of the water and the ground underneath, like it's giant. It's essentially a giant mud bowl, but super green water, and it turns these walleye this beautiful tealy, emerald, shimmering greenback that we call them. And there are people that come to fish them from corners of the globe. It's not uncommon to drive into a launch on Lake Winnipeg, some of the South Basin launches, and see trucks from North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota. I've seen Nebraska plate. And then you have people from Alberta, Saskatchewan, Western Ontario, extreme northern Manitoba, and then us typical southern Manitoba people. That's where really only place we fish, because it is decently close, and the fishing tends to be pretty good. You know, say what you will about Lake Winnipeg. When the bite is hot, it is some of the most fun fishing that you can do, that I've at least done. I've went for crappie, pike, muskie, Lake of the Woods walleye, really a whole mess of fishing. And Lake Winnipeg ice season is one of my favorites. Now, that being said, there are some, it is not uncommon to hear people go 0 for 11, 0 for 14, 0 for 20 before they ice a fish on Lake Winnipeg. The bite can be extremely finicky. And when they're not biting, it's like nothing is biting. Very rarely do you hear of people catch like 2 or 3 fish all day. It's either they're hot or they're skunked. At least in my experience. But when that bite heats up, when the big girls come to play, the 28s, 29s, 30s, and they come out of a 10-inch hole and they take up that whole 10-inch hole, just mouth open, pissed off, angry, gills back, spine is straight up in the air. There is very few. There's very few things fishing that are cooler than that I've experienced in my life anyway. But big shout out to good buddy of mine, Tristan. It seems to be when me and him get out there, we hammer fish. A couple weeks ago, we went out and I was actually lucky enough to ice my first master for the year. I think only my second ever master through the ice on Lake Winnipeg. Beautiful big fish. Go to, you guys can actually head to my Instagram now. Pause this episode right now. Head to, is it T-Freezin 30 or T-Freeze 31? I can't remember. I should maybe know this off by heart, right? What kind of guy doesn't know his own Instagram handle? It's TEEFREEZE 31, T-Freeze 31. You can check out my last big gal that came through the ice, and a picture of good buddy Tristan there. But listen, when me and Tristan get out to the walleye, when we get out there, which is slim, it's not as much as we would like to or we used to. But man, when we get out there, we put the smack down on some walleyes. I think we caught, 20 or 25 fish between the two of us. And all but 4 of them were under 20. I think that's right. Maybe Tristan can correct me on that. But I'm pretty sure that was how the day went. Now, not to toot my own horn, but like the boy did shoot the lights out, right? Like they were coming to my hole. I'd like to think that I was doing something right, but it very well could be the way we were set up. Tristan did set us up a little bit shife towards the mouth. So generally speaking, you want to be, I think anybody that fishes Lake Winnipeg knows you want to get to the mouth. That's kind of the key for that, fishing that body of water anyway, especially the time of year we're in. But yeah, we laid the smackdown on some big fish, and we only really fished from like 7:30 to 2. I had to get home and get to my boy. So didn't fish an all day like we normally do, or overnight like we normally do, which I'm excited to do that. I think we normally do that February, March-ish, which is a riot. If you guys have not ice camped, that is one of the most fun things to do in winter while ice fishing. I highly, highly recommend, as long as you have the right equipment, right? Make sure you got your CO detector. Make sure you got a good heater, good sleeping bag. Make sure you got your cot, your floor tiles, everything like that. If you have the availability, or better yet, rent a fish house. Rent one of those ice castles. That is a slick way to fish. I maybe shouldn't say it's a slick way to fish, because I've actually never fished in one yet. I missed my opportunity last year. I should have taken it, didn't. Sucks to be me, is what it is. Whatever. We will get the chance to fish in one. But yeah, do an overnight ice camp. That is by far my favorite way to fish. There's nothing quite like waking up at 6:30 in the morning to rods getting hammered and you're in your PJs or your ginch, whatever it is. Dude, that is a fun time. And then cooking some fish on the ice if you can, or even just eating on the ice. Like, it's so much fun to do. I highly, highly recommend it. But hoping to get out a little bit more. I know Bradley and myself are planning a trip to Lake of the Woods here sooner rather than later to try our hand at some Lake of the Woods walleye. I don't think we'll catch much because it's Lake of the Woods. That's a joke for anyone listening. Lake of the Woods is one of the best fisheries in Canada. They're finicky. I find the walleye there are more finicky than anything else that I've ever fished. But it's kind of the thing of getting to this, getting to this point is, man, I wish I could fish more. And I think that's everyone's thought. But, work and life gets in the way, especially when you start mixing kids in and stuff like that. Now, actually on that topic, one thing I forgot to mention in my last episode is I had a complete career change. So maybe let's talk about that a little bit, because that's actually a really important thing that's happened in my life. So I'm gonna back up here a little bit. Let's go back to kind of October 2022. We just lost my mom, and that was a hard deal. Kind of for me, it really made me, I guess, have to come to terms with my own mortality and the inevitability of that mortality. One day I will cease to exist on this earth, and Lord willing, it's a long time yet, and I get a long, healthy, happy life, and get to watch my kids grow up and, get to be a grandfather, and who knows, maybe even a great grandfather if I'm lucky. Essentially get to do the things that my mom didn't get to do. She didn't get to be a grandmother. We actually found out a few weeks after she passed, we found out we were expecting. And that was difficult. It was hard. I still, and I think it's something that'll happen forever and ever, is you'll miss those moments. And I don't know if I'm more sad for me that she's not there, more sad for her that she's not there, if I'm more sad for my boy that I don't, that isn't going to get to know his grandma and the woman that she was, or maybe it's a combination of all of them. I don't know. Something to think about for sure. But yeah, anyway, so, you know, that happens, right? We lose my mom, and it made me come to terms with my own mortality and realize that, you know, there's things in life that I want. There's things that I want out of life, and I need to do what I can to get there. So it really sparked a change for me in doing what I wanted to do with life. You know, whether it was renovating the house or going fishing on a day that, you know, I didn't necessarily want to go fishing, or just going by myself, or going hunting when, you know, to make time for stuff like that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I was blessed enough. I often say I'm blessed enough to find the thing that I was put on this earth to do at 7 years old, and that's to be a farmer. So when all this went down, I started really looking at my life and looking at what I wanted out of life and how I was going to accomplish it. I realized that it was my turn to make a jump. I had to make a jump into a new field that I didn't necessarily, that I knew a lot about, right? You know, growing up on a farm, you learn lots, but I had to make the jump to a job that got me back into agriculture. And I will say, you know, I was very, very fortunate to have the career I had in construction and learn everything I did, and to work for the people that I got to work for. I still stop by the old shops and try and stay in touch as best I can. And still, I pass their numbers on to people that are looking for the work that we did. And, you know, very fortunate for the life lessons that some of my employers were willing to be patient with me on while I figured my shit out. And for the lessons that they taught me, and, you know, just being a man and growing up and how to mature and what things got taken care of when and everything like that. But that being said, it was time for me to make a change and get back into something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. You know, I always knew that construction was probably going to be not the career for me. It's not necessarily where I wanted to be. And I say that meaning I could have made a really good living and had a really long, healthy career in construction and done well in life. But for what I wanted for me and my family, I knew I needed to make a jump. So I made the jump, got back into agriculture, and it has been one of the best decisions I've made for myself. One of the best decisions I've made for my family. You know, I think my wife would be the first one to tell you that I'm happier now than I maybe was before. Not saying it's all rainbows and lollipops and sunshine. There's obviously hard days, but, you know, the way I put it is, there's 7 billion people on this earth that we need to feed, and us as farmers are the only people that are tasked with that. And I think that's something that's super cool, and honestly, it's something I take a lot of pride in, that I get to do that. I get to help feed people. I get to make people's day. I get to help them in a weird way. I'm helping them experiment with a new recipe, or impress a girlfriend or boyfriend for the first time, or allow people to bond over food, which is an amazing way to bond. You know, it's really something I take a lot of pride in. And getting to work with animals and the people I get to work with have made the transition so much easier, in a sense. Because, you know, I'm not doing something that's completely foreign to me. A lot of this is what I grew up doing, but still at the same time, it's scary. Change can be scary. A jump, especially a career where you did so well in and could have built a very good living off of, to leave that, to make a jump and say, yeah, no, I'm gonna go into something a little more unknown. That can be scary. It's a hard thing to do. And I don't envy anyone that has to do that. I was put in a place where I didn't have to. It was my choice at the end of the day. But sorry, did I say I envy? Or did I say I don't envy? I don't know. What I mean to say is I don't envy people that have to make changes like that. But so I made the change. It's been awesome for me and my family. To be back in agriculture has been amazing. It's given me a ton of opportunities and put me in a place where, I can start maybe thinking about doing something for myself in a small aspect, whether that's a couple cows or some sheep or whatever. It's put me in that position, and I'm grateful for that. But that being said, I enjoy every day I get to come to work, and that's something that's rare in today's world. I think so many people get hung up on it's just a job, it's just a paycheck, just go in, punch out, get in, get off, get out. But if you can find something that you thoroughly enjoy, and every morning when your feet hit the floor, you are excited to start the day, no matter how it ends, you're excited to start the day. That's a rare thing. And I think that shows you exactly where you should be in life. But that's also not saying that it's not hard to get complacent. I sit here today and I think about all the things that I want to do, right? Start a farm for myself, for my family. Sometimes I got to remind myself that 15-year-old me would just be thrilled to be where I'm at now and to be happy with that. Because 15-year-old me would be stoked to be doing what I'm doing. 28-year-old me always wants more. And I think we're always chasing that. I think we're always chasing more. I don't know if there's actually ever a point where it's enough is enough, right? Maybe it is for some people. Maybe that's something I need to work on myself. It's just being happy with what I have sitting right in front of me, right? I don't know. It's good thinking. At the end of the day, like if it's going to force you to look at yourself in the mirror and adjust the way you look at something or adjust the way you see it, it's not a bad thing, right? It can't be a bad thing if you're going to look at yourself in the mirror and adjust. Wow, did this podcast get deep all of a sudden? That was not my intent for today. I honestly just wanted to have a good laid back podcast and enjoy being back here and my ability to be back here. But touched on my mom, touched on work, touched on really a lot on this episode. I feel like I did a better job with ums today. Thanks to those that voted on the poll on Spotify. 1 to 5 is enough, they say. I'm probably at 10 to 12 to 15. Somebody can jump online and let me know how many I said. That would be great, so I can dial it back. Somebody figure out the ratio of how many ums I'm saying per episode. Like, is it going up or down? And put it in a graph and send it to me in a graph. And then if you can tie it into the views based on the episodes, then we know if maybe I need to say more and get more views, right? Maybe that's something I need to do. I doubt it. I doubt anyone wants to hear me say Anyways, now that we got deep and emotional and talked about a lot of deep subjects, I'm going to leave you guys with that to think about. I'm going to leave myself to go think with that, to be honest. I really don't expect you guys to think much about it, but that's something I for sure need to do a little soul searching and dig deep in my soul and maybe figure out if I'm just not being complacent with, or not being happy with where I'm at, or and maybe it's a fear of being complacent, right? Maybe that's what it is. I think for me anyway, I can pretty confidently sit here and tell you that it's a product of how I grew up. You know, I had a single mom for the better part of 7 years that worked 3 jobs to put shoes on my feet and food on the table. Now, beyond blessed that the guy I called dad has stepped in and took me on as one of his own, even though I wasn't. But that was very much my mom's mentality, was you keep moving, like onwards and upwards. You know, even in her dying months, she would often say that she was going to get better, that she wasn't sick. She had a condition. It was her condition. And when her condition got better, she was going to do all these things. And, you know, being a year and a bit out, year and a half out, I guess, almost from losing her, it's things like that I find stick with me so much. It's the funny comments that, you know, make you think that did she honestly think she was going to be healed, or was it just her way of coping? But regardless of the answer, that's one of those funny moments that I often think back to, where we were sitting at a baseball game, watching my sister, and she goes, "Oh, when my condition gets better, I'm going to get a golf cart and I'm going to drive all the sick people around and make sure all the old grandparents and the sick people, I'm going to make sure they get to the stands and make sure it's easy for them to get to the bathrooms." And, you know, if that doesn't show my mom's heart in everything, while she was battling cancer, her thought was, well, let's just get better, and then I'm going to help everyone else that's in my shoes or like me. Man, she was an awesome lady. I miss her. But on that note, I'll tell you the same thing I told her. It's not goodbye. I'll see you later. We'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry this got emotional, and no, you know what? No. Pardon my French, but fuck it. I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry that I got emotional. I'm not sorry that I got deep. This is the whole point of it, right? This is the whole point of the podcast, for me to share how I feel at any given day in any given moment. So anyone that's going to talk shit about it, you know where to find me. Anyways, we'll see you on the next one. Like, comment, subscribe, rate 5 stars, unsubscribe, resubscribe. You know the deal. You know the jargon. We will catch you on the next episode. Peace.